Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday to you. Hope you had a pleasant Thanksgiving and are enjoying your leftovers. We certainly are. But it's time for another Saturday Anything Goes. And what I thought we would do today is I have all of these beautiful DSP scraps left over from making cards and treat holders and all sorts of other goodies. And they're pretty, but what do you do with them? Some of them are still large enough for me to do a card front with, but what about all these little ones that you see here? And I have mine all clipped together according to the DSP pattern, so I can easily pull them out and use them. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to pull them out and use them. My hope today is that we'll have time to make 2 cards that will show you what you can do with all of those leftover pieces that you have that are much too pretty to toss. We're going to be, like I said, using leftover DSP, but I also have this little ramekin dish that I use to hold my ribbon scraps and little sentiment cutouts and things like that. And then I also have a scrap bin that I'm going to show you where I keep my cardstocks and stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. Hello, and thanks for joining today. So the first thing we need to do is pull out our scraps. And I kind of have them grouped according to size, mostly. And as you can see, I do have some of the larger ones that definitely could be used for card fronts. But I do want to use up some of these small ones. Now this is from the All Is Bright Holiday DSP. Okay, so first thing I want to do is just kind of look through. I already sort of have an idea of what I want to use the paper that has, it's like the photographic quality paper with the holiday greenery and the bells. So I'm going to set that aside and let's see what that leaves us. So I have a couple of these polka dots. I have these beautiful, beautiful baubles, and I haven't really, I don't think, made a card with those. So we may pull one of those out and use it. And then we've got our poinsettia on one side, and oh, more baubles. I guess I should have put that with that. Then we have our traditional Christmas lights. And I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite patterns out of this DSP pack. As you can tell, I have 2 sets of very small scraps. It's kind of hard to use these because the stockings, you kind of lose the shape of them. So I'm going to put those aside as well. And this is what we're left with. I know I want to use this for 1 card. This I can actually use for more than just holiday. So I'm going to pull that aside as well. And there's my process of elimination. We'll be using the golden baubles and the Christmas lights. Okay, next thing is card base. And don't judge when I show you this. I told you we were also going to be using stuff from my scrap bin. This is where I keep all my small pieces, especially of my foil paper. But I have all kinds of cardstock, some DSP, some glitter paper. But this is also where I keep, I don't have a whole lot of pre-made card bases, but I do have some, and today's the day we're going to see if we can use any of them. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. We've got some Blackberry Bliss. We've got early espresso, a real red. Ooh, that'll go well with the Christmas lights. Then we got some soft suede and some Sahara sand. So let's take our baubles and see which of these. Now that's going to be too dark, so I'll take out the early espresso right away. And let's see with this. I just feel like that is a little too light. But let's see. Is the soft suede going to be too dark? We'll keep those two aside. I know that that's the same as the other soft suede. And then, of course, we have our Blackberry Bliss, but I'm not crazy about the two of those, the gold, brushed gold and that together. So it looks like we're left with these two. And out of these two, what do you think, Anne? Should we use the soft suede or should we go with the Sahara sand? The Sahara sand's a little bit more, lets the baubles shine through. So I think I'm leaning towards that. Even though the DSP pack says that crumb cake is what's meant to go with this, I think I like that Sahara sand. So let's go with that one. All right, so we've got our card bases picked out. Next thing is to figure out our scraps. So let's start with our baubles. That's a pretty long scrap, and that's a really long scrap, but it's a narrower scrap. Do I want more? No, it's the same size. I take it back. So let's work with one of these. However, you can see my directional pattern is really not going to allow me to use this one. This one it will. So let's use that. And I do like the idea of having it be the full front of the card. So I'm going to chop this down, leaving a small border. So we'll do it at our 5 1/4. And there I have another scrap, but I think I know how to use that. Okay. So I'm liking this so far. That looks good. What can we do to set it off? First of all, I want to see what I have in my little jar or dish. Oh, already I'm seeing I have a leftover mat that I used on something else. Oh, and look, I also have a couple of embossed sentiments. Now, that one's a little crooked, but I think this will go on there well. Okay, so liking that. Oh, and I've got some gold ribbon already done. I think we can put that right there. And we could stop at that, but I think we need a little bit more. So what else can we do? What else do I have in here? I have, save my red ribbon. What are these? Oh, look, I've got 2 gold leaves that were die cut. I think they're from, what are they from? Are they from Dashing Deer or Winter Woods? One of the two. Okay, I'm liking that. So it's adding more visual interest, but I kind of feel like we need something else to ground everything. Here's where I'm going to bring back over my bin of scraps. So we'll put all of that to the side. And let's see what we have here. I have some thin strips, but you know, that's champagne. And champagne is too kind of matchy-matchy for silver. So I have gold. I also have copper. Yeah, the copper is going to be too dark. So let's go with this strip of gold. And I don't want, I've already got a lot going on. You know, I liked the width of that piece of champagne foil, and that's 1/4 inch. So let's cut a couple of 1/4 inch strips. Hi, Sally. And let's see, that's my 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to go here, and I apologize for the glare, y'all, but you know with foil, you're going to get glare. All right, so we've got that. Oh, yeah, I think that's going to go really well. Let's do 2 of them. why have one when you can have two, right? So let me just get this all lined up here. And that way, if we want to use it, we can. If not, it'll go back in my scrap pile to be used on something else. Okay, now let's go ahead and assemble. I think we've got enough pieces and parts. So the first thing I want to do, I think, is attach my ribbon, because that's not going to go all the way around the card itself. It's just going to go around the DSP panel. And for that, let me bring in my glue dots, because you know me, I think glue dots are perfect for adhering ribbon. And to start with, I'm going to put one behind the bow itself. That way I can anchor it down to the paper where I want it. Make sure I stay in camera. How about right there? I'm thinking that looks good. Now, I haven't attached my, I'm not going to wrap this around yet, because remember, I still have my gold foil. And I want to be able to slip that in. So let's see how it looks with just one piece. So one piece, that looks good, but it's kind of lonesome. Let's add a little more visual interest and see. Oh yeah, definitely I like it with two and just spaced with a thin gap in between them. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and adhere down my gold foil. And for that, where's my liquid glue? I'm going to use liquid glue. That way I can kind of scooch it around if I need to. Oop, that one's not open. There we go. And you don't need a ton, because you don't want to kind of, oops, glopping all over the card. And my bottle is really oozing it out there, but I'll spread the wealth. Getting it all over my fingers. And then I said I wanted just a thin gap, so I'll start my first one right there. Oh, and it's just the right length, so I'm not having to cut off any at the bottom or the top. And if you ever get glue on there, like I've managed to, this glue is very runny, don't worry about it, because your glue eraser will help remove any of that residue. Get it off my mat so it doesn't get too sticky. All right. I'm going to try a different glue bottle here, because that one would be great for larger pieces because you get a lot out. But I want just a little bit. So let's see if this one will give me, oh yeah, much better. The other thing you could do if you're worried about getting too much glue on these strips is squeeze some out onto your silicone mat. Take a sponge, and then that will allow you to just dab glue on where you want it. All right, so lining this one up with just a thin border. Okay, I'm liking that. I think that looks good. Now the next thing, I think I want to go ahead and glue my sentiment down to the foil. And these always take a little bit extra to dry when you're gluing anything on top of foil. So just be aware of that. All right, now I think I can go ahead and wrap my ribbon around and attach it to the back. Don't need quite that much, so I'll snip some off. Bring back in my glue dots. And just adhere it down. Just like that. And we'll do the same with the other one. Again, snipping off if you've got way too much. I think I can just grab it with my ribbon here. making sure that I have it roughly even all the way across on the front. And there we go. If your ribbon moves around too much like that, I may come back and put another glue dot in there, but I think it's fine for now. I want to put my sentiment on next because that way I can tuck my leaves down a little bit if I need to keep them from overlapping. And you can certainly use dimensionals for this. I think I'm going to mail this card, so I'm going to just put it down flat, kind of towards the top, trying to leave an equidistance from here to my gold foil strip here to the edge. And then while we're at it, let's go ahead and glue it to the card base. And I'm even going to put a little bit of glue on the ribbon. That'll help hold it down and make sure it can't pop loose. And if I've cut this right, we should get just a thin border all the way around. There we go. Now all that's left is our leaves. So let's put, I think, one down there. And then let's do another one kind of coming straight up those gold strips. For that, I think I'll just use glue dots. Glue dots also will hold foil onto foil really well. And I'm not going to worry about doing every single leaf here, but maybe every other one. Definitely towards the bottom because I do want it to stick down there. Come on. All right. So I said I'm just going to tuck that one right there. And by not gluing down every single one, it gives me a little bit of movement. But certainly if you're worried that your little branches are going to bend too much, you could put your glue dots down on every single one. Let's finish this one up. And that one, yep. Boy, these glue dots are extra sticky. This one, since it's laying kind of sideways, I am going to use more glue dots. Put one on every leaf. And then we'll just tuck this down. And let's see, I actually want it to come kind of like that. All right, and there we have it. So that's our first card done using scraps. So yay, I've gotten rid of some of the scraps in my scrap pile. We'll put that one aside. Now let's talk about this one. This one I think is going to be a lot of fun. So going back to my scraps here. These are all pretty small. That's a nice, good size. So I certainly could kind of anchor that in the center. And then what can we use to set it off on either side? Well, before we do that, let's go back here and let's see what we've got. Probably should have left it. Oh, right there on the top. Look at that. Oh, I like that sentiment with that little bit of green behind it. And then for ribbon, we've got this. But it's a little bit skinny for me. The 1/8 ribbon works well on some things, but I think this card needs a little bit more. So I think our 3/8 inch cotton ribbon, oh yeah, I definitely like that. So we'll put that aside. And then let's see what we have. Oh, you know, we could have used the tranquil tie, but no, that's too much green. Too much green. So let's see what else we've got. Bring back in our scrap bin. And I could use gold again, but I wonder if those little scraps of, oops, that's not right, champagne might work with this. I know that there's gold on the light bulbs and the Christmas lights, but since I'm just going to have it on either side, nope, I'm going to cut some more gold. I'm thinking we need to stay with the gold family. So again, I'll cut a couple of 1/4-inch strips because obviously this isn't big enough. I could cut a piece of gold to go all the way across the back, but then I'd end up with even more scraps, right? So let's just use what we have. So we'll cut 2 more thin strips. See if I can do this without having to bring out a Post-it note. You can certainly do that to hold your scrap steady. I think I've got just enough to be able to grab it. There we go. All right, so I've reduced the amount of that scrap. And now we'll just glue this to the back of this. And we could use tear and tape. We could use, I think I'm going to stick with the liquid glue. So what I will do is make sure on your lights, they don't really have a directional pattern. With me, it's all about the colors. See how this has a lot of the white lights in it, whereas this has more of the red and green. So I'm thinking I like that side. I guess I could cut this down to fit first so I know where to glue it. And here I am just going to use my long shears. There we go. Okay. So let's put just a little bit along the edge. And I don't need a lot of the gold sticking out. I just want enough. All right. And now we'll do the same with the other. And you can see my gold doesn't go to the very end. I'm not concerned about that. In the big scheme of things, it is really such a thin strip that people probably won't even notice it. All right, last one. What I will do is just try to make sure I get the gold lined up with the other side so that it has the same amount showing through. And it ends at roughly the same spot. Okay, so I've got those. And that's going to go like that. Now we said our ribbon is going to go here. And where did our sentiment go? Right there. So that's pretty cute. But you know what? I feel like it needs a little something coming down from the bow. And remember that champagne leaf I had? Yes, I know it's not gold, but that other strip I don't think is big enough to cut one of these leaves. So I think it will be okay since we've got white in there to kind of balance it. And that does add a nice bit of a little festive touch to it. And I like that, but I feel like it's got quite a large red border, even though we have the gold offsetting it. I just feel like we need something there. And I've already glued things down to the front as far as the panel, so I can't stick anything back there. But you know what? I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus and we'll do some word art. And I think if we just do tone on tone stamping, so I've got my Real Red ink here. Whew. And then I'll bring in my Stamparatus. You know I love to use my Stamparatus. And let's see. So I'm not going to glue this down just yet, but I do want to leave it on there as kind of a guide for me. So let me just line this up. You know, I think I like the other side of this card better. Yeah. It looks like it's cut a little more evenly. All right. And the only reason I'm doing this is I want to see how much space I need to fill in. Move that over just a tad more. This is where the grid paper comes in handy. Okay. And I happen to have my Ready for Christmas. If you remember, this was in last year's holiday catalog and it carried over to the annual catalog, thank goodness. But since our sentiment says at Christmas and always, and I knew that was from there, I thought maybe we'd use sharing the joy to give it even more meaning. So let me pull this out and I'll show you what we're going to do with it. And it's photopolymer, so I've left my mat in. But what if we stamp? Oh, and look, it's perfect. What if we stamp along the edges? And we do that with the Real Red so that we've got tone on tone stamping. And that will just fit on either side. Let me pull that up. And ink it up. And let's see what it looks like. Oh, I like that. Let me bring this up so you can see, hopefully. See how it just gives it a little something, something. So now, rather than reposition my stamp, I am going to, oh shoot, I can't bring it up any further. I guess I'm going to have to, I'll reposition my cardstock. There you go. So I want to bring this down. If I had had it coming off this way, I could have, so for instance, if I'd had it this way, I could just do hinge stamping. But since I didn't, no worries. I'm just going to slide this down. I guess it would help if you could see what I'm doing. I'm just going to slide this down. I know I lined it up at that mark. And we'll see if that gives me what I need. Actually, I can bring it down a little bit more. Do I like that? Yep, I think I like that. Maybe even just a little bit more. One more block on my grid paper. Oh, perfect. All right, we'll ink it up. And once again, stamp it down. Okay, so that worked out really, really well. And being as how, you know me, I'm a person of symmetry, I will reposition this all. And actually, I'm going to turn it this way so you guys can see what I mean by hinge stamping. So I will line this up, making sure I know where I want to stamp it. Now let's put this down. Right there. Well, that's not going to work for my hinge stamping. What am I thinking? Sorry, guys. I haven't done hinge stamping in a while. It needs to go this way. There we go. That's better. All right, now I can lay this down. Make sure I'm even. No, I wasn't. See, I need to redo that. Always make sure your paper is pressed firmly against where your hinges are. And that way you know if you have to re-stamp it, it will go in exactly the same spot. Okay. We'll ink it up. Down we go. Excellent. And now, oh shoot, I did it again. See, I'm coming off the wrong end. Normally what you would do if I had my hinges placed correctly is I would simply come down here and you can see it would line up exactly right. But I don't have my stamp in the exact right spot. So we'll just make do. I will do a video on hinge stamping one of these days. All right. This is the last one. And my G didn't come out all the way, so I'll just press it back down. And actually, let me take this paper away because I think that is maybe what is causing it not to do the very bottom of my G. All right. So we can put our ink away. But you can see, you can fill up an area that maybe looks a bit too austere or blank to you just by doing some pretty tone-on-tone stamping. Let's put this all together now. Now I can glue this straight down, or I could prop it up. But you know, I think I'm going to glue that straight down and prop up my sentiment. I always love how it creates those little shadows behind it. So we'll bring back our liquid glue. And again, I want to line it up to where I have it just about an equidistant from both edges. So my liquid glue gives me that little bit of wiggle room to be able to make any adjustments. Okay, now I do happen to have a little bit of hangover down here at the bottom, which I'll take care of with my long shears. Okay, now let's finish this up. Grab my dimensionals. And we'll put our sentiment on first. Pardon my head if it gets in the way. I do want to try and make sure that this is straight. Okay, so we've got that. We'll bring in our bow. And again, I'm going to attach that with glue dots. Right below it, like that. Now let's trim up our tails. I like them long, but these are a little too long. And lastly, we'll bring in that little bit of a leafy pattern. Again, if the fact that it's not gold bothered you, you certainly could cut a gold one. But like I said, I'm using up my scraps. You know what? Before I do that, do I have a different color? And that, just like to make sure. Nope, that definitely won't go. I also have little snowflakes left over, but again, they're not the right color. At least the champagne is a little bit closer. And this, I will use a little liquid glue on because I'm going to need to kind of squiggle this one into place under that bow. All right, so I think that's it. We've managed to use up some of our scraps. I know my little bowl here has certainly gotten a lot emptier, and with just what we had on hand, without even doing any cutting, we were able to make 2 very pretty cards. So don't be afraid to get out there and go through your scraps and pull them out and just start playing with them. Sometimes if all you're doing is looking at a piece of DSP, that doesn't inspire you. But if you bring in a scrap bin and then your little scraps of ribbon and die cuts and you just dump everything out on the table together, a lot of times that is what's going to give you the inspiration. Okay, well, I will have this video up on YouTube later today, and then I will have it out on my blog. Shameless plug. Here is my blog, cardsbywinnie.wordpress.com. If you need to order any supplies, I have a November host code there for you. And because technically we're still in the Thanksgiving holiday, I'm giving double paw print rewards this week. And what that means is for every certain amount that you spend, you get a paw print. In this case, you'd get 2. And then after you get a dozen of them, it gives you a $1 amount off your next order. So I'll have all the details of that on my blog as well. That is everything for today. Hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Eat up all that turkey leftovers. And I will see you again on Tuesday night. Bye, y'all.